And of course, we know that around this time next year, it's the morning after across the country in different polling stations as Kenyans wait to hear what will happen, who is going to form the next crop of leadership in 2022. So we just want to look at the dynamics and what is at stake with this particular general election. We also want to understand more about who is to watch on the road to the 2022 general elections and also the state of preparedness of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Yesterday, you saw the chair, talk about how prepared they are as a commission for this particular general election. So we want to look at those issues and how they are going to impact the next general elections in the country. A very good morning. Once again, my name is Serfine Achieng Ouma, and our sign language interpreter for this particular show is Lensa Odingo. Of course, I'll not be doing this alone. I have a guest in studio with me this morning to help me unpack some of these issues. And we are having this morning Fred Okango, the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party. Thank you, Fred, for creating time. It's always a pleasure to have you on board. So we just want to look at this road to 2022, an exciting, path, if you may ask me. There's a lot that comes into play this time around. Talk about COVID, talk about those who've come out, the who is who in this particular general election, talk about the preparedness of the IEBC, which is yet to be fully constituted. We know that there's been that journey to fill it up and have 4 commissioners also on board. So we'll talk about all those issues. But let me just begin by, getting from you the general perspective. Let's begin with the IEBC. A lot is going to be centered around this commission this particular time. Yesterday, the chair actually spoke about how prepared they are as a commission to conduct this general election. As a Kenyan first, leave alone even being a politician and a secretary general of a political party, as a Kenyan, do you have that feeling that we are in good hands?
Thank you, Serfine, for inviting me. And I think as a Kenyan that has been in this country and has participated in several elections, and having understood and witnessed the type of politicians we have and the type of election management bodies that we have had before and the type of relationship between the public and the election body or the election managers, I still believe that there's more that need to be done so that Kenyans can be assured of a free, fair and credible election. Because we are told all the time that an election is not an event. You don't wake up one morning and then go and participate in an election. Election has got a cycle. Pre-election, during election, and post-election. And in all these, there are certain aspects that are attributed to the election cycle. Planning, reviewing, voter education, voting, and then reviewing, and the cycle continues again. And the election body knows that very well. Now, going back to the discussion on what you asked, if you ask me, I think there's more that the election body need to do, and also there's more that they have done to this level. There's more they have done. They have, remember, sometimes back our party wrote to IBC so that we could have a meeting on 4 issues. One of them was election preparedness. And the chairman assured us that, they were even going to launch a strategic plan, which they did. The chairman assured us they were going to engage stakeholders, which they have started engaging. So in my view, I think to some level, IBC has managed to do what is expected of them in Article 88 and all the relevant statutes, Election Act. You saw the other day they gazetted the requirements on election spending limits as provided for in Election Campaign Financing Act of 2013. And that means they are preparing. So if you ask me, I would say that they are trying. But the relationship between the public and the election body. Even if they do the best thing, the public still believe that there's something that must be overturned. And maybe it is time now we discuss what is this thing that we really need to do so that we redeem the lost glory of election managers.
All right. Before we get to that, Fred, it's good you've also told us about what your party did and meeting the commission and all
Absolutely.
that. I'll want to know how also your party is preparing for the 2022 general elections. You know, everyone seems to be on the table discussing
Absolutely.
where is third, where lands,
Absolutely.
but that will come later. How do you, see this playing out? IEBC has had issues, controversies within the commission. We saw 4 commissioners resign and left a gap that took long to be filled. It's just now that last week President Uhuru Kenyatta nominated 4 commissioners and their vetting and approval is pending in Parliament. But what is it that the commission, what's that extra mile that, the Chebukati-led team has to go to ensure that they restore this confidence, this public confidence, and even the confidence of the political parties because they have a say in this particular electoral process? What is it that they need to do?
I agree, Serfine. And that's why I said IBC, as much as they have tried and attempted to do much, the issue has been in election results transmission, where the public still believe that their candidate lost because of failure in electoral transmission. IBC has told us that they're going to have several servers this time. It is good that the commission will be complete. Probably, I do expect probably by end of this month or somewhere mid, the nominees to the commission the 4 of them shall have been vetted and Parliament will approve in time so that that commission is complete. And I saw yesterday Mr. Chebukati hoping that the 4 will join them. Those are aspects of preparation. Then the other thing that I think the commission must do, Serfine, the general principles of electoral management require that, or electoral system require that the election must be conducted in a manner that is free and fair and free from intimidation, corruption and violence. You have seen even in the recent by-elections, Serfine, where there was violence. You saw it in some quarters, and that is threatening. And the public was saying, wait a minute, if this is the type of election we're going to have in 2022, then we might be trying to revisit 2007. So I think the first thing that IBC commissioners must do to ensure that they restore, or rather the commission must do to ensure they restore the lost glory in the eyes of public, stakeholder engagement. They must engage all stakeholders. I am glad that yesterday they started with the media, and they have engaged the media, and they went ahead and published, the Gazette notice as required of them by law, section 12 of Election Campaign Financing Act. Now they need to go and engage the political parties. They need to go and engage the religious leaders. They need to go and engage the contestants, the presidential candidates, the aspirants. They also need to go and engage other institutions that will be very important in terms of electoral management and so on and so forth. Then the other thing, other than stakeholder engagement that IBC must do, they must keep communicating and communicate effectively. Because in communication, if you don't communicate effectively, the recipients or the would-be recipients will not know what you're doing. I am glad that they are attempting to do that. And we hope that as we approach the 2022 election, we shall be guided by the principle of electoral system, we shall be guided by the requirements of the Constitution, we shall be guided by the statutes that are relevant in electoral management. To that effect, then IEBC shall come out as a winner. And even if people lose in an election, then they will lost with their heads high. But if there are doubts, because already IBC has sent a warning. They have said in their budgetary allocation, they did not get what they had proposed.
We'll pick up from that particular point on the budget and the deficit that the commission is having. But I just want us to cross over very quickly to Kisumu County. We have a reporter there, Weekly for Kech, who has also been following up for us what is happening with regards to this road to the 2022 general election. We'll just cross over to him so that we can also understand what that region has to say concerning this particular journey. Wycliffe, it's over to you.
Yeah, they are taking. Well, a very good morning to you, Serfine, Achieng, Ouma. That's a very candid conversation you are having there in the studio. Serfine, you do realize that the political scene is already lit, given the preparedness that the IBC exuded yesterday, that the next year's elections will be credible enough. That means politicians can start angling for their directions and strategizing on how to retain their positions, or rather those that are coming to the fore to probably clinch the seats that they are seeking. And we've seen just the new political formations and coalitions coming to the fore, talk about the UDA, talk about the One Kenya Alliance, and that means that the political drums have started beating. But then, Serfine, we've seen in previous occasions, general elections in the country have planned the country, probably we can talk of chaotic scenarios that we wouldn't wish to have in next year's general elections. You do realize that the Kenya Editors Guild have set dates for presidential elections. That means everything is already set for next year's general elections, even given the considering yesterday's remarks by IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati that the commission is set to hold, is ready actually to hold next year's general elections incredibly and in a fair manner. But then, Serfine, what exactly that as a nation we can do probably to ensure that the next year's general elections we don't witness the chaotic scenes that we've witnessed before? That is the kind of conversations that I'm going to involve a few residents from Kisumu here to get the opinion on what as a nation we can do probably to ensure that we don't have chaotic scenes in next year's general elections. Brother, yes. How are you?
I'm fine.
Utatueleza majina yako?
Oh, my name's Pastor Benedict Oburu.
All right, Benedict Oburu. Yes. We only have probably less than a year or so talking to us today. Valia mask yako?
Yes.
Just wear your mask. Yeah. By today we are talking about a year or so until we have next year's general elections.
Yes.
As a resident of Kisumu, what do you think the country can do probably to ensure that we don't witness chaotic scenes next year?
Yes, well, I want to begin with the nominations. The first chaos erupted from nominations, where there is defections from one party to the other, because our party nominations are always a scam. In fact, they are mocking the voters. They don't do it properly. So people carry their anger of losing their nomination because they had a support, but they were not recognized with the party that they were vying in. So they carry that one forward. And the elections of Kenya, if it were better, it would have been that electing governors, MPs, women reps, and MCAs would have been done separately with the presidential, because all eyes and all anxiety are vested on the presidential vote. Because of majorly transmission, our media, they are so fast in announcing the correct things prior. So they get confused. They bring confusion because our electoral body are never serious and are never sincere. Because just transmitting information of a winner from one polling station to the other, you will find that even after the elections is done with, the election is all over, some polling stations are still missing and they have not submitted their results. So in submission of the results, this is where we get problems. And especially if I were to advise the electoral body, especially the chairman Chebukati, he should concentrate so much on the presidential results. And if it is possible, let the presidential results be announced in the constituency level. And let the manual one be found to tally with the one that is electronic. That would not bring so much questions on server and what have you. These issues that we call server is missing, or we want server to be opened, is just coming about by not being sincere, because they like pocketing money than ensuring that wananchi has elected the person that they were aspiring for. So according to me, I emphasize that let the presidential election be done strictly separate from other elections, because it is the major one that the whole country is looking at, and it is the one that is triggering the violence all over the country. Like now, as a pastor and as a man of God and as a prophet, I prophesy that there will be electoral skirmishes greater than the one that we saw in 2007, because people are antagonizing, and those that are vying, they are chest thumping, and some of them, they are loaded with money. They have the money that even if every Kenyan, 46 million Kenyans, if they are paraded, they can dish out 2,000 to each an individual citizen, and they still remain with the money.
You've talked much about the IEBC, and you've also talked about party nominations. In some occasions, we do realize you've got to witness that some political parties, they've got their preferred candidates even before we head to general elections. What is it? What could be your call on political parties as they conduct their nominations?
Let the political parties not cheat people that they are doing fair and free and fair nominations. Let them just write down those that they prefer in each and every area. Like let's speak about in Nyanza. Nyanza is dominated by ODM party. Instead of bureaucratic bottlenecks and all this alabalu and giving people bitterness and making people feel pain and agony after spending a lot of money running around, and then they fail to get the certificate, let the party be clear. They stand and they announce that we are going to select those that are fit for our party. The rest, can you vie in other parties or you become independent candidates, so that we don't get these defections and this pain and agony that people get after spending too much money and seeing that they have won the hearts of the constituents, and when it comes to the party will ask you, are you a member? What have you done to the party? So they forget that voting is also supporting party. From the time immemorial, we have been voting one party as a bloc. So that one qualifies me even if I were not supporting it physically or financially. So let them just select their people, each party to select their people, instead of this thing called nomination. Or not unless there's a body like IBC, because IBC is overwhelmed. Let the parties come together, all the parties, let them raise money in a one pool, let them do the elections of nominations together, so that this acts like the body that is conducting the election instead of party. Because you find out that an old woman from a local area will come when she's just being pushed by the cart. And when she reaches the station, it will be around 6 a.m. in the morning. You will wait for voting materials until 5 p.m. Somebody will come with almost 100 voters' cards instead of bringing 700 per polling station. Then you start voting. Within a twinkle of an eye, there comes a sufficient balloting papers. And now you will now be using crude papers, which is not even recognized by the party.
Yeah, that's about the party nominations. You've talked about, according to your opinion, the political parties have a role to play in the general elections as much as the IEBC. Correct. But do you think, as an ordinary Kenyan, the electorate or the voter, what role do you think you have as a voter to play in ensuring that the country has a peaceful election?
The role that I'm urging all the citizens to observe is that your part is only to exercise your democratic right by so voting. After voting, you go back to your house and you leave the fate to take care of itself. Because you may want somebody so much, but it is a competition. If that person fails to clinch the seat, that is like a sport. If you don't agree to be led, then you.
Right, there is a Wycliffe Okech there, just discussing what needs to be at play for us to have a peaceful general election come 2022. But wonderful insights there, Fred, from that gentleman who is talking about even how best we need to go about these party nominations, because according to what he's saying is that this chaos, this violence actually usually begins from the party level, how we conduct our nominations in this particular country. And you know, earlier you had talked about what IEBC needs to do to reclaim its lost glory. I'm actually also interested in finding out from you if you know, you feel what this gentleman is saying can actually work if IEBC is allowed to have a, you know, a staggered, a staggered, first of all, a staggered general election, so that we can actually reduce the burden on the shoulders of Kenyans, and also if they can actually be involved in the party nominations, so that we can have a clean process all the way to the top.
Thank you so much. I agree with a lot of the sentiments from the viewer and the participant from Kisumu. But let's start from if IEBC can stagger the election. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 says that the elections of the members of parliament shall be done on the same day with that of the president on the second Tuesday of August every 5th year. So the Constitution gives us a date and who will be elected on that time. To that extent, it requires amending that section or that article 101. So it cannot be done now. Number two,
but do you think it's a viable?
It's a proposal that has been there.
Considering the emotions that the president, actually, usually, mostly the problem is usually with the presidential vote. That's it. The rest, there's quite a few issues.
I think in the future, Kenyans must start thinking, and it is the Kenyans who will decide. They must start thinking, how do we stagger elections so that we don't stress the election management body, and we don't stress ourselves with the campaigns, and we don't stress individuals even in terms of financing and managing the election. So to that extent, it can be done. However, it is the Kenyans who must decide that they want it, and they can decide through themselves or through the elected representatives who are the members of parliament, the senators, and even the county assembly members. Now, there's an issue that the gentleman has raised.
The political party nominations.
Political party nominations.
Can you point an accusing finger to IEBC, yet you as a political party are not very keen on how you conduct your nominations? I don't think I would point an
accusing finger to IEBC. No. It's not their issue. In fact, IEBC can come in and help. The provisions of law, in Article 88, Sub-Article 4, actually mandates IEBC to conduct, to settle disputes arising from nominations. That's what the law says. But the political parties, nothing stops them from requesting IEBC to help them in managing or conducting their nomination. You know, nomination in Kenya is the election before the election. There are certain regions in this country, unfortunately or fortunately, that the moment you clinch the party nomination certificate, you have one of your legs in that seat, because that's how we are conditioned and we are mobilized politically. So people value nomination more than they value the election date, because they know once they clinch that nomination certificate, they are in. So I think it is upon us, the political parties and the political players, to ensure that the first the start of things, making things work, is political party primaries. Because we might accuse IEBC of general election and mismanagement and the rest, but if from our political parties the process is not verifiable, it is not credible, it is not accountable, it is not free and fair, then we transport that bad manners of nomination to IEBC and expect IEBC to clean that mess. They will not do it. They'll proceed and subject the same candidate that we have given them as a party, so that he competes or she competes with others. And that's how people start revolting, how we start saying the election will be managed. So in my view, again, I believe and contend that the election management is not an IEBC issue alone. IEBC is a referee mandated by law to regulate, conduct, and settle disputes arising from election management. However, the participants in this election are the politicians and the public, and that's why I started by saying what we would want to see now going forward is stakeholder engagements beyond even the political parties and political players. That must happen. And in the timelines of conducting primaries, IEBC have done what the statutes requires of them. They have set deadlines of conducting primaries. It is upon the political parties, us, to now ensure that we work and budget within the timelines that have been given by the election body, so that we don't get caught up in that mess where people are saying even the ballot papers that are being brought for conducting nominations were procured illegally, you know, all those messes. And that's how it
can actually be prevented.
Exactly. You put it right. It can be prevented because the timelines have been given. Those timelines now allow the political parties to plan. However, within the political parties, if the structures within a political party do not favor a free and fair nomination, then we still have a problem. So that problem is domiciled in the political party structures. It is not domiciled at IEBC. However, because we believe that IEBC is an independent body, if the political parties request IEBC to help them manage the nomination, it can be done. But look, we have got over 70, 67 something political parties. Imagine all of them would be requesting IEBC to help them conduct nomination, and the timelines are the same for all political parties, and the IEBC is also preparing for the general election. You can see the danger. So for me, political parties must put their house in order before pointing fingers at IEBC. I'm not saying IEBC is a saint, but I'm saying we have a lot of time that we can use to ensure that within the political parties, first of all, we manage our affairs in nominations better, so that when we take our candidates, present them before IEBC, so to compete with other candidates from other political parties, it makes their work easy. All right.
We'll talk about the timelines that IEBC has set, main timelines that IEBC has set later in the course of this particular conversation. But one thing that stands out in the election management process is the role of the security apparatus in helping the commission to manage these particular elections. They have been criticized quite a bit, especially in the just concluded by elections in different parts of the country, and how they conducted themselves, the security apparatus, in managing the violence that was witnessed in some of these areas. What should be done different between now and 2022? Because yes, they have a role to play, but they have been accused of really sometimes going overboard in playing their role. What should be done differently this time around?
The first thing, Serfine, that we must do is to delink security apparatus from politics. As politicians, we have a tendency of trying to link the security apparatus, particularly if you are not in government. When you see the police, you think they work for the government of the day, which is true, but they are not working for them in terms of politics. They are working in them in terms of securing the lives of Kenyans. We have seen that before. But I think the issue that has been raised is valid, because you can imagine a situation where there's chaos and the ballot boxes have been transported to a polling station, and then there's chaos. It is the work of the police to protect property, public and private, so that that election can be done. However, as it is now, I am also aware, and I saw the other day CS Matiang'i and his team giving briefings, and they say they're also preparing. But the first thing that we must do, we must identify the usual hotspots and potential hotspots in election violence. Once that is identified, the security apparatus must ensure that they've put measures in place to protect property, both private and public, and humans, and the participants, election participants, and even the IEBC, officers. Because if we don't do that, we are likely to see a situation where people invade election centers and cause chaos. So security apparatus, they have been accused before of lackluster management, or of favoritism, or of interference. But I think in their code of conduct, they know what to do. and they will do what they should do. So as it is now, those are also stakeholders that IEBC must start engaging. So as we go into the election, I'm sure as an election body, IEBC also in their knowledge and estimation, they have identified the black spots or the hot spots that chaos are likely to emanate from. Those areas,
they should concentrate
on them and secure. But the most important thing, Serfine, in managing even election is dialogue. There are certain areas that every time we are going to an election, there's border violence, tribes fighting. Some of them are politically sponsored. So stakeholder engagement where people dialogue and agree to disagree or disagree to agree is the solution. Those are issues that IEBC cannot sit down alone and say, we are going to send 200 policemen in Borabu border to stop election violence. No.
So
engagement.
The security apparatus need to come as the last line of defense.
As the last line of defense, because in their duty, they have a duty to protect everyone, including their colleagues. They have a duty to protect everyone. But you see, the source of violence, electoral violence, is politicians and the public. So the first thing that must be done, the politicians and the public must engage. Then they must engage with the election manager, who is IEBC. Then the police also must now be told that these are the agreements, and should people violate the law, then the law should take its course. But I'm glad that discussion has started. CS Matiang'i and his team are already engaging, and they're saying, we are ready for election. Everyone is preparing. So I think as we go forward, Kenyans have witnessed death in election. Kenyans have witnessed loss of property. This time round, I pray that things should be different, so that we don't go into that.
All right. So what we will do after we want to quickly cross over to Mombasa County also to find out what is happening with regards to the preparations for the 2022 general elections. Then we discuss more on IEBC. We have Junaika Risa on standby for us this particular morning from the coastal region to discuss what needs to be done for Kenyans to go home satisfied on the 9th of August, the year 2022. Actually, 10th of August, 2022. What is it that IEBC needs to do? What should Kenyans do? Junaid, it's over to you. What are residents of Mombasa saying about this particular general election?
Good morning, Serfine. Achieng. We're joined by Professor Hassan Mwakimakwa. He's a political analyst from the Pwani University, just to share a thing or two on the IEBC preparedness ahead of the general election in August 9th next year. Welcome to the Newscheck. My first question is, the countdown has already begun right now. Do you feel that the IEBC is ready with only just 1 year to deliver credible election come next year? Because we've seen there are no commissioners in place. These proposals are yet to be ratified by the parliament. Is the IEBC ready with the shortness of time to deliver a credible election next year?
Thank you very much. I think we are 1 year to the election, and obviously everybody is looking forward to IEBC to be prepared. So far, I think the challenge is that they don't have enough commissioners, but we know that the process has already begun, and there are commissioners that have been recommended, and it's upon Parliament to work hard to ensure that they're able to approve these commissioners so that they begin their work. So I think that is the first step that they need to do, that it must ensure that the required commissioners are there. But it all depends on Parliament. If Parliament works hard enough and goes through the processes, and then the commissioners are vetted and they're approved, then they will be in the first stage of preparedness. And then also it's about the finances that IEBC is requiring. Again, Treasury has given them some money, but they are saying that it is not enough. I think they need to sit with Treasury, they need to sit with Parliament to say how much they need exactly and what it is for, so that there is some kind of rationality in their demands. But it will be unfortunate if IEBC is denied finances, because they have a very important task to perform. It is very dear to Kenyans. It is the basis upon which our democracy depends on, credible elections. So they need to make sure that they have adequate finances.
Yesterday, the chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, pointed out that if the monies is not given to them, they will be forced to slash down some of these exercises, like the mass voter registration from 30 days to 15 days, a retrenchment of some of the clerks in some of the offices or polling station. Do you feel that some of these deductions will be able to, or the scaling down of operations will be able to deliver another credible election in next year?
If scaling down of operations will not give us a credible election, it is not advisable. The best thing is to ensure that whatever they have, they put in all the effort to ensure that they have enough staff. They are able to register as many voters as possible, because there's a very huge number of young people who did not vote last time because they didn't have the necessary identifications. So they have to ensure that everybody participates in the voting, because it is a democratic right.
So according to you, they have to be equipped?
They must be. They must be provided with the necessary finances for them to be able to perform their role. If they don't have enough, whatever that they have to work with that to ensure that they are able, particularly voter registration, to ensure that every Kenyan citizen who is eligible to vote is able to vote. There is no any other way other than ensuring that we have credible elections.
Let's talk about the monies that they have set in place so that they can ensure that each candidate who is vying in the next election needs to have. Do you think that these monies are far-fetched? Some of the ones that I've placed, are they far-fetched? And also, these candidates, will they be able to raise such amounts of money ahead of this particular general election? And as they raise this money, how will the IEBC ensure that these people are spending according to the statutories that they have ratified for these candidates?
The monies that IEBC has given guidelines, they are mere guidelines, but there is one catch here, is that if it becomes law that you have overspent, your competitors can actually go to court and say that you did not follow the election regulations. But elections are expensive in Kenya. If you are vying for a certain position, you need to have adequate finances. Because of just the election expenses, you have to hire staff, you have to hire vehicles, you have to advertise, and all this require some substantial amounts of money. The candidates themselves, they need to know where they will raise the funds, because ideally the funds are supposed to come from political parties. But political parties, they don't fund their candidates enough, so the candidates have to raise their own. They have to find their own sources of finances. But the thing here is that it should not be about money for someone to offer themselves as a candidate for a particular post. So IBC has given guidelines, but it does not mean that if you don't have that money that has been given, then you cannot vie for a position. I think these are the higher ceilings. And it's just about regulations to ensure that people do not overspend, and make it that it is only those who have money who can win an election.
But how will the IEBC ensure that there is conformity to some of these regulations they have?
It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, because actually they go to the candidates themselves and ask them, how much do you spend, and provide evidence. So it's not really easy for IBC to say that you have spent this much, unless they control the finances themselves, but they don't have any chance to do that. So IBC is giving guidelines. There are cases, I think, historically, where candidates have gone to court to say that their opponents have spent more money than they should have, and people lost their seats because of that. So this is just a catch for the candidates to ensure that they do not appear exorbitant in the way that they're spending money. But there is no way in which IEBC can be able to say you have spent more than what we had, the guidelines that we had given.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going forward, when you're talking about elections, the one thing that yesterday he also pointed out was the issue of electoral malpractice. They say that they had 71 cases back then. They have seen cases of voter bribery in some of the by-elections that were recently done in Kenya. They are saying that they're working with some of the security apparatus to ensure that these cases are not repeated in the next general election. Are you confident in some of these remarks that they are making, and do you feel that there's not going to be any electoral malpractice when it comes to the next election?
Electoral malpractice is a very common phenomenon in Kenya, particularly voter bribing. But I think IEBC can give the guidelines. It can say that it is against the law, but I think they need to work with the candidates and the citizens to ensure that they do not make demands to the candidates that they have to cough up money. Because I think most of the demands are coming from the citizens, the voters. There are some cases where voters will not even go to participate in the election if they have not been bribed. So it is immoral to bribe. It is against the law. And if IEBC wants to ensure that it addresses this challenge, they need to work with the citizens. There must be a lot of civic education on why citizens should not expect to be bribed and why candidates should not bribe. It is easy for the candidates to say that we don't want to bribe, and if the candidates also agree that there's not going to be any kind of bribing, then we are actually going to begin to have elections that do not have a lot of these malpractices.
But what are the odds of some of these things happening?
It's very difficult. It's because it is the Kenyan who has to say they are not going to vote somebody on the basis of how much bribe they have received. But it is tricky, because even if the candidates give bribes, 200 shillings, 500 shillings, whatever it is, they are not so sure that the candidates are going to vote, the citizens are going to vote for them. So it is upon the candidates, particularly the competitors, to agree that, look, we are not going to spend a lot of money bribing citizens. Okay. But some candidates, maybe because they have a lot of money, they want to take advantage of the money that they have and entice citizens by bribing them.
That's why the IEBC has come up with the conformity.
Exactly. So that is why where there is clear evidence of bribery, then candidates should just be declared ineligible. Yeah, because it's not fair. Yeah.
So your final word, is the IEBC ready to deliver a credible election, putting in place all this on the table? Is the IEBC ready to deliver a credible election next?
I hope that IEBC is going to deliver a credible election, because that will help in building our democracy. Where they are not ready now, they have to work very hard to ensure that they are prepared. By the time that we are holding elections, everything is in place. If they are not going to do that, then we expect to see some chaotic situations, which will be very unfortunate for us. So I hope that IEBC does everything within their powers, that Parliament does everything within its powers to ensure that the elections that we're going to have are going to be credible.
Those are very encouraging words from the professor. I've been speaking to Professor Hassan Mwakimaku from the Pwani University. He's a political analyst in this particular region. I hand it back to you, Serfine, Achieng in studio, to continue the discussion.
Thank you, Junaid Karisa, for that particular interview there. Karisa there talking to Professor Hassan Mwakimaku, a political analyst based in Mombasa County. Thank you for those insights. We'll be picking up some of the key issues that they have discussed there, including the budgetary allocation for IEBC, the deficit of 14 billion shillings, and how it's going to impact the preparations for the 2022 general elections, and also the spending limits for aspirants in these particular general elections coming up right after this particular break with my guest, Fred Okango.
Get the VIP access to the best shows on KBC Channel 1. We have something different, something special to spice you up. Get ready for new, exciting and captivating dramas. Movies.
Love the smell.
Comedy.
I went to the Popos. Huh?
Drama.
Did he assault the Queen in my house, in my presence?
News, sports, and so much more. Do the things that make you happy on KBC Channel 1.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
She told me the truth. That's why I'm here. I want to see my parents.
But don't you think it's time that we call a doctor?
Take her to your apartment in secret and let us know so that the two of us can have a word with her and we can erase her from the face of the earth.
And Ceci has thrown me out, and I'm very sure that she's plotting against you with Ulises Arteaga, because until now she's still bent on separating Ivan from Mariana.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Horacio Espinosa.
No, what?
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
月圆风般吹散沉香，香满旗檐上。
You have no right to beg for mercy for her.
I'm willing to take her punishment. Please forgive her.
Please help me to check his real identity and confirm he is your son.
It's a trap.
You see?
Promise. I will get revenge.
月圆风般吹散沉香，香满旗檐上。抓一位当归入药汤。
Rich forever, yeah, yeah. To the good biggest island, and the people in Ireland. I stop on the scene and them say, here Rasta. I speak gold and green and them say, here Rasta. Turn up the radio and turn up the music.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Newscheck, and today we are talking about the preparations for the 2022 general elections. In studio have been engaging Fred Okango, the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party, who has been breaking down some of the pertinent issues that shape this coming general elections for us. But before we continue, I just want to quickly allow you into what the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, said about the money problems that the commission is currently facing. They are looking at a budget of over 40 billion shillings to be able to successfully conduct this coming general elections, a very expensive general election. But let's just listen into what he had to say, and then we'll come back and begin to dissect how this is going to impact their preparation.
The commission prepared budget and requires 40.329 billion to carry out all activities in the election operation plan.
and we require a further 588 million for purpose of procuring items to be used in the COVID-19 protocols, which include the thermometer guns, sanitizers, soap, and washing points, which brings the total election budget to 40.917 billion. As you are aware, we have been allocated 26.34 billion by National Treasury, and there is leaving a deficit of 14.577 billion, which means that we're falling short, so that you have cases where activities like mass voter registration, which require 30 days, it means we have cut down to 15 days. We expected to cut down on the staff at the polling stations. All these activities are based on the legal framework. So you cannot have 3 clerks instead of 6. So this amount we're asking for is actually the bare minimum, and we're urging National Treasury to provide sufficient funds so that the activities of the Commission in managing the elections are not disrupted.
All right, so the IEBC chairperson there, Wafula Chebukati, talking about what they need as a commission vis-a-vis what they have received. That is about 26 billion shillings. So they are falling short of 14 billion shillings. Fred, if you look at these numbers, first of all, what do you think about the 40.9 billion shillings budget for the commission?
I think Chairman Wafula Chebukati has tried to break it down. You see, the requirement is that when budgeting is done, institutions like commissions, IBC, submit their what they would want to be given based on previous allocations, based on the circumstances prevailing at that time. And the circumstances prevailing at this time, Serfine, are such that this election is going to be a very interesting election because it's coming in the midst of a pandemic. And you can bear with me that we are not going to see the end of this pandemic anytime soon because of the way it mutates. So Chairman Chebukati and his team have factored in that there'll be need to obey the Ministry of Health and the World Health protocols that ensure that the voters, when they come to the station where they vote, they keep social distance, their temperatures are measured using the thermogun, they wash their hands with soap either, or they sanitize. And that requires
for every
money.
polling station.
And it's for every polling station. How many polling stations do we have in this country? We have got 40,000 of them. I think 41,000 of them. Now, they have budgeted for that. And he says they will need additional 18 million. Remember, he also says that they have been given 26 billion. What they had requested for, having factored all these, was 40 billion. So they have a deficit of around 14 billion. Now, in my understanding is that what he is asking for is justifiable given the scenario. However, it's also a bit expensive compared to the cost of election in other countries, but it's justifiable. So I think what we need to do, we need to ensure that while this is happening, because the expenditure that IBC is going to have in terms of guaranteeing election which is free and fair is very important. We don't want a situation where they will come up and say we did not do mass voter registration because we didn't have this money.
So this is likely to affect,
it's likely to impact
the
on
operations
the
of the
outcome, not only operation, on the outcome of this election. Assuming we go with the budget they have, they'll have to put their shoes in that, their feet in that tight shoe.
To give us value for
so
money.
that they give us value for money. Will you expect value for money in that? My answer is no. Remember, it is only IBC that can tell us what they need. However, I would encourage them to negotiate, to renegotiate with the Treasury, to renegotiate with the government, to renegotiate with Parliament, to renegotiate with the donors, so that we don't have a rigid, situation where take it or leave it, because that will affect us. Election is not an event. it is a process. So the process that will culminate, in fact, the process starts December 2021, this year, where political parties must have done fundraising. Then it moves to February, where the people are resigning. Then it moves, you see, as May, as we go. So it is a process. So I think Chairman Chebukati has raised this thing as the right time. Now, the Treasury need to check, is there a way that they can intervene? The partners need to check, is there a way that they can intervene? Because I can tell you, Serfine, the most important thing is to ensure that we guarantee Kenyans a free, fair and credible election.
And money shouldn't be an issue here.
Yes.
And I like what you've just said, but, you know, the issue of funding the electoral body has been a thorny issue.
Yes.
It's not the first time this is being discussed. I was following the interviews for the commissioners of, you know, the IEBC commissioners, the ones that resulted to the nomination of the 4. And one of the issues that came out of this particular interview, most of the panelists kept asking and probing the candidates what their proposal concerning how to finance IEBC is. And this issue about exchanging money between the donors receiving grants both locally and even internationally became quite a discussion, because there was issues to do with how to balance the trade between just taking the money from this particular donor and defending the independence of the commission. Some felt it could compromise the independence because some donors would want to advance their interest through the commission just because they put money in it. What do you think about this tricky, you know, battle?
I followed the interviews keenly, because I'm an interested party as a politician and as a leader of a political party. I agree there could be some conflict. However, it must not just be money. It can be logistical support. For example, Chairman Chebukati has explained himself eloquently and said they would need extra 18 million to budget for precautionary measures as far as COVID-19 pandemic containment measures is concerned. How about if there are partners who are willing to provide those thermogans, who are willing to provide sanitizers, who are willing to provide soap, who are willing to set up stations that people will go and wash their hands? It is not liquid cash. It is logistical. So those are things that can be done.
How do you receive this support, whether in kind or cash, and still maintain your independence as a commission?
In my view, I think we have seen such support before. We have seen NDP coming in, UNDP coming in terms of civic education, in terms of civic sensitization as far as election matters are concerned. There's never been a complaint. So I think it is an arrangement that we can have, the government can have with the donors. If it is money that comes from the government, then the government can have, not necessarily IBC, the government can have with partners, their development partners, so that instead of giving money, they receive those type of logistical support and then they hand them over to the independent commission. So it is possible.
Let's talk about the spending limits in the campaign. I'll be taking our viewers through the timelines in just a bit. But, you know, one of the issues also that is very key in this general election is the issue of how much the aspirants are expected to be spending on the campaign trail. The presidential candidate, I believe, should be spending approximately 4.4 billion shillings. And I will not go through the others because it's a list of from Turkana, people who are vying in Turkana County spending the highest,
over 54 million.
Lamu, who are spending the lowest. I believe there are quite a number of dynamics that came into play before this list was compiled. First of all, what is the significance of having this cap on the spending?
First of all, Serfine, Kenyans should understand, and I want to help our viewers know why this is happening. The Constitution of Kenya 2010, in Article 88, Subarticle 4I, mandates Independent and Electoral Boundary Commission to regulate the spending and to ensure that they regulate the spending on political parties and on the candidate that is participating in a given election and even referenda. And therefore that informed the legislation on the Election Act 2011. But in 2013, there was a proposal on election campaign financing bill, which was now enacted into an act that gave clear guidelines on how money that is used in election should be spent and to what limit. And that function was given to IEBC as an independent institution that is an election manager. That's how we arrived here. Remember, the Election Campaign Financing Act was suspended sometimes. So it is now coming into play. It is the members of parliament who enacted that law. They, knowing very well that they are politicians and they are victims. So it is coming at a time when also the public have accused the politicians of using so much money to campaign, and then when they get into office, they reap it back. So it had been a source of corruption. You see, so the public were right. And that bill, before it was enacted, it also went through public participation. I am confident that the public also gave their view. Let's arrive at the limits. The Act, the Election Campaign Act 2013, provides for management in the form of committees, which shall be a maximum of 9 members. So we have the political parties expenditure committee that manages the funds that the political party is spending or expending in an election. Then you have got, if in the case of a referendum committee, then you have got independent candidate committee, and then you have got those other party sponsored. Now, the limits also has a criteria as per the Act. How do IEBC arrive at 54 million to be spent by a candidate running in Turkana West and 12 million to be spent by Frederick Okango, who is running for Member of Parliament Kabondo Kasipul constituency?
So you need to have 12 million.
So that's what I need to have.
That's how much you need to. That's how much you need to spend. That's how far you can go.
That is the limit that I'm expected to spend when I'll be running for that office in the next few months. Now, if you look at the criteria, it talks about geographical areas. It talks about the type of election. It talks about the membership of a political party if you are a party candidate. It talks about the issue with the urban and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of thought that has been put in that act to ensure that the play field is leveled. Because I agree with the limit, because the area that a member of member of parliament aspirant in Turkana West, the area that is going on, she's going to cover is much bigger than the area that Frederick Okango will be covering in Kabondo Kasipul constituency. So that means the amount of money that the Turkana colleague or friend will be spending is much higher. However, how do we ensure that we are fair in ensuring that, you know, the money that is spent is your own money or is a money that has come from donation or from Ararambe? Again, IBC in their gazettement, guided by the Act, Section 12, Section 18, Section 19, have given that these must be limited. For example, for political parties or for individuals, you should not receive more than 20% of the limit. So it means that you can source for funds, but not a single person shall give you at more than 20%. Okay. But also, I think
but is there a way that IBC will really follow up?
There is no way that they'll follow up.
Find out whether this was.
But they believe that the expenditure committee, who has a criteria of being nominated in that committee, will be guided by ethics and leadership and integrity to do that, because it will be an offense not to do that. And again, in any event that a committee spends more, then the Act says that the committee must write a report to the commission justifying why they did that. So that
there is
law
room
protects.
For, so there is room
protects you. So people should not panic. But I think, in a way, it also disenfranchises the young politicians like some of us who don't have money. People say, if you don't have money, don't go into politics. But leadership requirement, money is not a constitutional leadership requirement. Money is an enabling factor so that you can enable you to move, to mobilize, and to secure. But in this instance, assuming you have a young politician who has not accumulated wealth legally, or who has not stolen, because some of these guys are thieves, how will you ensure that you compete fairly? For example, in Turkana, where the limit has been set at 54 million. You only have 1 million, but you are the best. You have been given the nomination to go and compete with somebody who is might not be the best or the best, but they have the money.
But they have
it
the
is
money. So, but I believe this requirement was one way of also just leveling it up.
Yes, it is.
Because it could be higher anyway.
It could be higher.
It could be higher.
By the way, Serfine, politicians will always spend more. Even when you say the presidential campaign 4 billion, I think there are people who have put billions and billions to ensure that there's chest thump.
Not
that
even triple, not
no,
even.
No, a lot of it. And we have seen that.
Yeah.
And it is a way of also trying to ensure that we stop theft of public money. Because in politics, there are people who go into politics, Serfine, to enrich themselves. And when they go into politics, they use a lot of money, and then when they get into that office, they try and recover that money. It will be disastrous for a candidate to go into an election, spend more money, and then try to recover it from public coffers. That is corruption 101. So what I think IBC is doing, mandated by Article 88, mandated by Section 12, 18, 19 Election Campaign Financing Act, mandated by Section 4 of IBC, Independent and Election Commission Act, is to ensure that they are fair in administering an election that also must be seen to be fair in terms of spending money. So to that extent, they have done well. But somebody also would view it is still disenfranchising, particularly to the people, the young politicians who don't have that money.
All right. So the $1 million question here is whether the aspirants are going to adhere to this spending limit.
Oh yes, I see a situation where...
And how IBC is going to follow up to ensure that this is
whether
to the latter.
Parliamentarians are going to approve it. That's another question.
That's another thing to look forward to. I just want to take our viewers through the main timelines in this 2022 general elections. Then when we come back, we'll also talk about more issues that touch on this road to 2022. So yesterday, not even yesterday, just a few weeks ago, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission launched their 2020-2024 strategic plan that contained an operational plan for planning the next year's general elections. And this is how it looks like. If we can just have those graphics up. This is how it looks like, what needs to be done between now and then. I told you it's about 364 days to the next general elections. So the big day, looking at the calendar and also looking at what the Constitution of Kenya 2010 stipulates, is that a general election is to be conducted on the second Tuesday of August every 5 years. So if you look at 2022, the next general election should happen on that particular day, that is the 9th of August 2022. But these other timelines, currently the Commission has launched a mass voter registration exercise that targets 7 million Kenyans. They're going to do this in 2 phases. The first phase commenced on 2nd of August. It will run all the way till the 16th this particular year. Then they will go ahead to conduct a second phase of the voter registration exercise from the 6th to the 20th of December 2021. After the voter registration exercise, of course, we usually have what is called an audit of the voter register that should run between the 1st to the 30th of October from the 1st to the 30th of October. So just to look at the register and how clean it is. Of course, there is a firm that is going to be mandated to do this, and then they will present their findings to Parliament, and then IEBC will be able to consider some of the recommendations in the report. And of course, let's also look at the second slide, just to look at more on what IEBC is planning to do going forward on the road to 2022. Of course, we know what is happening currently is that there is pending of vetting and approval of the names that were submitted by President Uhuru Kenyatta in Parliament. That is Francis Wanderi, Justus Abonyo, Juliana Cherera, and Irene Cherop. These were the 4 candidates who were lucky to have been nominated to join the commission to form a fully constituted commission that will run the next general elections. That's according to the law. And of course, what we are looking at right here, what I told you earlier, the big day is 9th August 2022. That's when Kenyans are going to hit the poll. According to the Constitution, general elections are to be held every second Tuesday of August after every 5 years. So around this time, it's going to be a very busy time for the country, a beehive of activities. That is if all factors remain constant. So there you have it, a bit of timelines there also for aspirants, what they need to do between now and then. By December 9th, 2021, political aspirants are expected to have concluded their fundraising exercise. You've just heard us talk about the spending limits here with my guest. And of course, by February 9th, 2022, civil servants are expected to, in case you're a civil servant and you have hopes and you're planning to vie in the next general elections, you're supposed to have resigned by the 9th of February 2022. According to the law, this is supposed to be happening 6 months to the general election. So a few months for them to be enjoying their salary before they can get into parliament, whether they will be lucky or not. So on the 30th of March, by 30th of March, just to get that, you're supposed to have, in case you're a presidential candidate, you're supposed to have already finalized your nomination there. Presidential candidates, no wonder we are having so much political talks of coalitions. They are very busy right now because they are also working under very strict timelines for that to happen. So that is how the road to the 2022 general elections is looking like in summary, but it's a detailed plan that elaborates how the commission is planning to conduct this particular exercise going forward. Fred, you've just seen those dates, yeah, we've pulled up there, and what should happen between now and then in terms of the aspirants, in terms of also preparing the voters, their registration and all that. First of all, what do you feel about how prepared the commission is in terms of how they've organized themselves?
I think it is important to have timelines, and to that extent it's very good because it guides the process. As we know, by 30th May, from 30th May to 10th June 2022, the presidential candidates shall have gotten their nomination to run. That is, people are preparing. We know that. We know 10th June also member of parliament. However, it doesn't stop IBC from their end ensuring that time is achieved by constantly reminding the political players that we have got this number of days to this. Because if they don't do that, then Kenyans have got the tendency of last minute, where when things are about to end in 2 days, now everyone rushes to that, and then it spoils everything, it messes it, it compromises it. So number two also, those timelines are a guiding factor in terms of ensuring that the candidates also budget. They put money where money is necessary. Political parties put their house in order. Independent candidates put it in order. The civil servant that you say have an opportunity also try and see how do they start transitioning to that level where they can now exit and contest. And even the employers now start seeing how do we start ensuring that there's succession to that level. Yeah. So I think to that extent the timelines are very important because they are a guiding factor. It helps the commission, it helps the the would-be aspirants, and it also helps the public. Right. But you have asked, how prepared are they? We have talked about this, Serfine.
Especially the political parties.
The political parties.
I was talking to you earlier, and it seems like every political party in this country right now is having problems. Issues with them.
Yeah. It's that season. There are so many challenges within the political party because of interest, political interest, personal interest, and so many interests, because politics is about interest. But I think even with these guidelines, we are now able as political parties to put our houses in order so that we meet. It is a requirement that we must meet those guidelines, regardless of what happens in the political party. So I think that majority of the political parties are not adequately prepared. They are prepared, but there's more that we need to do as political parties.
Right.
Because one thing that is going to come and is going to be a big challenge is the nomination. The nominations that people are looking for, certificates, the nomination of presidential candidates, and then putting in place the political party expenditure committees, and so on and so forth. Those are things that we have to comply with. So I think there's a challenge of political parties trying to meet those deadlines. There's a challenge of individual candidates who are running to get the 12 million, the 54 million. There's a challenge of IBC trying to ensure that provisions and regulations are complied with. So there's a whole big challenge.
And you've really dealt on this 12 million. I hope you got it together. I hope
the law allows me to hold a
fundraising.
Yes.
All right. So something that is coming up here, or even on social media, is a possibility of postponing this particular election. Yeah, Pan-Africanist Ramadan Abdul says nothing has been done for the past year. It was handshake, then Tanga, then BBI, now countdown. There's Patrick Baraza who is asking, so what's the way forward? Should we postpone the election or to chase wasted time? I mean, a crucial question. There are two camps here.
Yes.
Others feel, let's push it forward.
We're not ready.
First there is COVID, and then there's the wait and see situation with the BBI. Then others are saying, the law is very clear. It has always been very clear. Let's have it according to what the law says. So I don't know.
Anyone who
what are you reading
anyone
from
who
this?
says the law is clear himself is not clear. And those are jargons that people use to hide under the law. Now, Serfine, the provisions of law there's no provision of law that allows for postponement of election, but there are provisions of law that allow for extension of term of parliament. And under what circumstances? Under the circumstances that Kenya is under threat of war. That provision is in Article 102 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Now, we have seen different types of debates. Former Senator Njoroge wrote a letter to IBC and said, in his view, he thinks that by holding this election on the second Tuesday of August 2022, which will be on a 9th, the president shall have been denied opportunity to lead by 4 months. There are people who believe that COVID is a biological war, and by interpretation of Article 102, then if we are threatened by COVID, which has ravaged for sure this economy, and that fact is there, then we should go and extend the term of parliament so that we prepare.
Does that argument hold though? Tanzania, Uganda, the other day held their elections.
I wouldn't say it holds or it doesn't hold. The reason why courts exist, particularly High Court, is to interpret that aspect of law. So anyone who had such an issue can go to court for interpretation, and you are going to see many of them. But in extending the term of parliament, you can only extend term of parliament through a resolution of members of parliament, and by a maximum of 6 months, then another 6 months. So in essence, you can only extend by 12 months. If I ask you, Serfine, what can we do, assuming that all those reasons are valid? Somebody goes to court, seeks interpretation, and the court says, okay, we can extend, and then by resolution by parliament, they extend. What can we do with 12 months in terms of election preparedness? There's very minimal we can do. So I hold the belief that election should happen on the second Tuesday of 2022 of August, as stipulated in Article 102. However, we must work towards that. The other day, there was an interpretation by the African Human Rights Commission Court that said that it is within the jurisdiction of the member states to apply their laws, their domestic laws, in extending election or not. And that was left blanket. But it was left in a blanket way because we have a law already, the Constitution, that governs when an election should happen. By the way, it is only the election date that is in the Constitution. There's no any other date.
So the law is very clear after all.
I wouldn't say it's clear because the law is not static.
Let me just that is, does this phrase, if all factors remain constant, apply in this case? Remember, there is a pending case at the Court of Appeal, that the BBI appeal,
which is on 20th,
which is we are supposed to be getting a decision by the court on 20th of August.
Absolutely.
It could go either way. If it does go the way that it is not considered, then all factors remain constant and that date applies. But what if things happen on the contrary and there's a referendum we're also looking at?
Let me tell you. And again, in one of our points, when we wrote a letter to Chairman Chebukati, we raised that issue. Are they ready to conduct a referendum should the court gives a go-ahead. I know this is an issue which is at the court. I wouldn't want to talk much about it, but the facts are such that there is no law in this country that specifically says that a referendum must be held on this date. However, as we have said and established, there is a law in place that says that election must be held on this date. So we'll go by what the Constitution says, and the Constitution says that the election date is there. And that's why IBC are preparing. But if you remember, sometimes back, IBC made a tender, announced, as far as procurement of referendum material. So they are aware. They are preparing.
But yesterday, the chair was really dodgy about this subject. He said...
the chair is a lawyer. He's dodgy because he knows that he should not talk about issues that are in court.
He couldn't
and I agree with him.
categorically say whether they are preparing for a referendum.
Because that decision, I think they can also make it when that time comes, after 20th. But I can tell you, if the people of Kenya want a referendum, the law that allows them to do that is in place. If they don't want it, the law that allows them to do that is also in place. So it is up to the people of Kenya to decide that they want a referendum or they don't want. But from my perspective, I think there are certain heavy issues that have been raised in the proposal to amend this constitution that will help us for the long run. So I advise that we be open-minded, even as we look at the timelines, even as we look at the issues.
So if it could go either way, the case is still in court.
Yes. And even if it goes either way, the loser at the Court of Appeal definitely will run to Supreme Court.
Is there a likelihood that in the event it is upheld and you know the BBI is declared valid and there is a referendum, is there a likelihood that this could impact when the next general election will take place?
No.
And go into the political ocean for me on this, because you know that BBI actually really has a lot to do with the 2022 general election. So go into the political ocean for me on this.
Yes.
Is there a likelihood that it could affect the date that has been set for the next
truth of the matter?
Many would want it to happen before, others would want it to happen.
The truth of the matter, truth of the matter, Serfine, would be that Kenyans have a new constitution before an election. That is the truth of the matter. Why? As per the provisions in the proposed constitutional amendment bill 2020, issues to create new constituencies will affect, because those people must be voted in the election. Issues to do with revenue allocation, issues to do with involvement of women in participating in election and leadership, issues to do with involvement of the young people, the youth, in participating in that election. So ideally, it would be better if there is if a referendum is to happen, then it must happen, or it should happen before an election. And again, when you dive into that ocean of politics, you will realize
you're being
there's a lot
legal
of
with me.
No. There's a lot of interest.
Let's look at the political aspect of this.
The political aspect is the players of the constitutional amendment, who are politicians, favor a referendum before an election. The players in the politics who are against the referendum favor it after. Why? Because it is a campaign tool that some of them would want to use. So for me, I would say that we are at a time when we must choose what is good and stick to what is good. And like choosing what is better, and in our view, for some of them it's not better, it is just good. So the good here is we have an election that is coming.
All right.
The good here is we must elect our next president on the second Tuesday of next year, August. We must do that.
I think it will get clearer as we go.
It will get clearer after 20th. It will get clearer. But I can tell you also, as we approach that 20th, there is also a plan. You have seen a bill, an alternative bill that is being pushed through Parliament. So there is a way of navigating. If that bill, constitutional amendment bill that is sponsored by Jeremiah Kioni, goes through, then again we can still try and achieve the vision of the constitutional amendment bill 2020 through Parliament, through changing some of those aspects, because that is the whole essence, to ensure that the people of Kenya get what they endorsed during that time of referendum.
All right, Fred, so far so good. As we get into the final lap of this conversation, Let's look at who is to watch. Because now we've talked about IEBC, we've talked about the date.
But we have not talked about the participants.
Now, who is in this race? Who is to watch? Let me start home for you. Third Way Alliance. We are seeing a lot of talks going on right now.
Yes.
Political marriage is happening and divorce is also happening. What is Third Way doing? What is on the table?
As a party, Third Way Alliance Kenya, first of all, we also have our challenges like any other political party, which has hindered us from trying to settle on really what we need to do come 2022. The other day, NEC, a section of NEC, because now it appears that we have so many sections of NEC, opined that, we need to relook at how we are going to get in this election by partnering. The others believe that they can do it themselves. But I hold of the view that, and that's the view of the majority of our members, is that we must grow as a political party by ensuring that we have elected candidates or elected leaders in 2022 from MCA level to the top level. That one we are working on, and it is an in-house issue that we are fixing. So we are preparing for election. I would tell you that confidently. As a party, we shall be fielding. There's already a notice out there that we are fielding candidates for MCA, Member of Parliament, Senator, Woman Rep, and Governor. And we have given an email, punguzamizigo@gmail.com, to invite applicants. We are also going to field in any by-election that are pending between now and then. Now, who is to watch?
What about the top seat? You've not touched on that?
Those are issues that we have not touched about, and there are issues that are contentious, and I would want to discuss them here because they're very contentious. I do believe that in the coming 4 or 5 days, we shall settle them and we shall give Kenyans a way forward as a party as far as fielding. Initially, we had given a communication that we are not going to field a candidate. However, they have a school of thought from the other side that believe we should, and there's been confrontation. And as people who love peace, as people who love democracy, as people who believe that consultation and stakeholder engagement is important, I believe we shall consult again and see how we can go about it and try to persuade our supporters and our officials on the benefits of doing either. Now, who to watch? I have seen in the past only one person has declared, actually two. William Ruto has declared that he's running for presidency, and he declared long time ago. My good friend Kalonzo Musyoka has declared he's running, and he's on the ballot. And I saw yesterday Kalonzo Musyoka launched SKM Command Center. It means he's preparing. And I think Mudavadi has also declared he's running. So those are people that we cannot ignore. They are in the race. I am not sure, because people have said that Raila is running, but Raila Odinga himself has not said. And I believe Raila Odinga will also tell us at the right time if he's running. But indications show that he would want a country that he desires, and he has been issuing statements on
how
what...
do you interpret that? Is it a manifesto?
I think, if I interpret it, I think...
every Sunday, every weekend,
it is in his vision that we have a country like that. Probably he would be running. I think so. So, till May 30th, between May 30th, 2022 and June 10th, 2022, we shall actually know through nomination who is really to watch. But for now, I can guarantee you, I have seen Speaker Muturi, Kalonzo Musyoka, William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi. I have seen Kabogo. I have seen, who else? I have seen this gentleman, Muhisa Kitui, who is also a candidate. So I have seen those ambitions coming out from them, and they're talking. But I can tell you, at the end of the day, Serfine, it is going to narrow down into two individuals. I don't know who those will be.
You're looking at a two-horse race again?
I am in Kenya.
Considering the dynamics,
in fact, the dynamics in the 2022 election will favor a two-horse race. Look at the campaign expenditure limits, 4 billion. I am telling you, with the ravaged economy, with the melting down of the economy, very few people can pull a campaign expenditure of 4 billion. Not even a billion, 4 billion. That one limits the number. Number two, the requirement of a winning candidate to secure 50+1. You must go into this election, if you are a presidential candidate, you must be a serious person. You must be a person of integrity. You must be a person that can attract voters all over the 47 counties, or at least get 20% in the 25% in the majority of the counties.
All right.
I look at the aspirants. I am worried that some of them
I didn't want to let you go there, but anyway, let me analyze your list of who to watch in this 2022 general election. Let's begin with the Deputy President William Ruto. As a very passionate advocate of the bottom-up economic model. And it's the first time he's actually attempting to take a bite into the presidency of this country. What is the winning formula for this gentleman from your perspective?
From my perspective, William Ruto has made people president. He has contributed in their campaigns. He has led their campaigns. And I think he believes now he's the one to be made. So his campaign slogan is revolving around the hustler, is revolving around bottoms up, which as an individual I really don't agree with, because I believe that the only aspect that Kenyans want to see is the aspect of bringing money closer to them and right in their pocket, so that they can do their business, they can conduct their business, they can better their lives. But that aspect is already there. It is a principle called devolution, so that the only thing we need to do, and some of us who are proponents of constitutional amendment, we have said, we now need to do that by adopting the word as the primary unit of accelerating the development, so that it can be faster. So his chances in terms of convincing the Kenyans are open. He claims he has the numbers. That one can only be proved after election, which will be on 28th of August 2022, when the election will be declared as per the timelines you have given us there. The other gentlemen are talking about economy. Salem Mudavadi is pegging his vision for this country on economy, economic model.
Reducing the debt.
The debt, reducing the debt. And I think, is it yesterday that he launched his economic model? And again, if you look at that...
And Raila is also having an about turn. I wanted to understand, because he has been known as a person whose vision was centered on advocating for good governance and the rule of law. Economy has never been really part of his script.
Because
suddenly he's turning into
I'll tell you why, because
angle.
All presidential aspirants, and if you like candidates at that time when they shall be cleared, will be running on a campaign platform that is purely economic. Why?
So economy is an issue.
It's a big issue.
Around.
It's a big issue. We are at a time when the economy has melted. It has melted because of mismanagement. It has melted because of pandemic. People have lost jobs. People are going without food. People cannot secure their lives. Their children cannot go to school. They have been chased from their houses. They have gone back to the village. And even in the village, they have nothing. It means the voter will be looking at a candidate who will guarantee him or her a better life, not only in future, but even presently. So if you look at all these candidates, how they have been trying model themselves, because Raila is also remodeling himself, Ruto is remodeling himself, Carlos is remodeling himself, and all of them have got an aspect of strengthening and reviving the economy by growing by some digits. That is what they are doing. So it's not going to be different.
His political critics have termed his about turn as a sort of way of playing catch up with the bottom-up approach economic model, because suddenly it's all about economy now. I mean,
you know, Serfine,
does it have anything to do with this?
I don't think so. And I wouldn't want to speak for him, because I'm not the best person to speak for him. But as a Kenyan who is observing from far, I am persuaded that the best that the presidential candidate, and not only presidential candidates, all aspirants can deliver or can promise Kenyans is a better economy. Because with a better economy, you create an environment where everyone can thrive. And it must not only be a better economy, it must be an economy that is sustainable. I want to believe also, Serfine, that as we progress, we are going to see a breakdown of how to rebuild this economy from these aspirants or these candidates. It has not come out. The other day you saw people struggling to explain their own model. they're saying it is something that look like this. Some saying it is a bottle that you put like this. Some say it is, it's something that, I mean, you have seen all those manner of explanations.
How this has been interpreted.
It is very difficult for even some people to explain their own model. I want to believe as we progress, we are going to have engagement forum where we shall invite all these people and subject them through thorough scrutiny to explain to the people of Kenya. And I'm glad that the media have tried to put a preliminary date of presidential, debates, two of them. Those opportunities will be important for these people to explain to the public that when you talk about economic model,
what do you mean?
What do you mean? What is it?
And it should be about issues.
Exactly.
Issues that you bring on the table.
And I pray that we have an engagement like in the developed world where people agree or disagree ideologically, not on personal differences. And that is the conversation that I'm now seeing in this country.
All right.
That conversation is not a monopoly or of one individual. And that's why I encourage Raila Odinga, I encourage Mudavadi, I encourage Kalonzo, I encourage Ruto, I encourage, Speaker Muturi and Muhisa Kitui, all to dive into it. Tell us, what are you going to do? The economy is the backbone of every country or every government or every state. That backbone, if it is not strong, then it will wibble. It will collapse.
It's true.
We want to put them to test.
It's true. I'd like to agree with you on that particular point. Economy is actually a very critical issue, especially the COVID, how to recover from the economic downturn that has been occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. People are going to be very keen on understanding this person who is going to be the next president. What plan does she, let me underline, she or he or he have to help us bounce back as a country? Because I'm yet to see any female aspirants.
I wish they come out
in that particular list. Yes.
And again, not only what plan, that plan, Serfine, must be sustainable. Let me tell you, do you know some of these manifestos are the same? The language is what different, because they consult the same consultants, and then they duplicate it, then they go and change it. But this time around, we are seeing aspects of different economic models. And we are seeing, I was glad, yesterday I saw my good friend Kalonzo Musyoka coming with what is called green gold into looking at the environment. He's fighting about corruption and so on and so forth. So you see all these people will give them different names but the same thing. The most important thing, how are we going to sustain? Jubilee government came into power, they promised so many things. Some they have delivered, some they have had challenges. So where they have had challenges, their time is ending. There's very little they can do. They have done what they could do, and they've been appraised on that. Whoever is going to take over from them must be somebody that must perfect the best they have done, and also must be somebody that must correct where they have had challenges.
All right.
That person must present that to the people of Kenya in a manner that they understand it, not in a manner that is playing politics. Because we have seen people playing politics with economic models, where you take models as a draft, where you push a button, push this, if it doesn't work, now you change it as middle left, middle right, top bottom, right bottom, trickle down. That jargon and that semantic is what the public don't want to see.
And I believe
they want to see what is working, feasible, viable, and actionable.
I believe even the public have a role to play in this. Because if we are to engage in politics based on issues, then somebody has to be listening somewhere. Because
Absolutely.
This culture of looking at people vis-a-vis issues has to stop. Because if they're coming with the issues on the table, let's go beyond the person, the face that is addressing. Let's look at what they have for us as a country.
And that's why
I hope
I agree. And that's why as a party, as Third Alliance Kenya, we believe in ideas. We don't believe in personalities. Personalities are temporary. Ideas are permanent, because once they are planted in an institution, then it is upon the institution to carry those ideologies with them. We believe that this time round, not only the presidential aspirant, even from the MCA level, we must now start seeing people with ideas that resonate with the public, not in the past, but in the current and in the future. What the people want today might not be what they wanted 5 years ago. What they want today is an environment where even if pandemic was to happen, because we cannot control pandemic, but they will still have food on their table, their children still go to school, they still pay their bills. That economic model has not been presented by anyone. We want to see it. As a party, we shall table ours, and we shall compete with the others. And again, there's nothing wrong with having a discussion around the models. We can criticize them because it is up to the public to decide which one they prefer, and they can only decide that in an election. So we want to see a contest of ideas, not a contest of personalities. And you see, some of the politicians who have been very fierce before, who have been personality-oriented, who have been, combative, they have changed. Today, what they are doing, they are diving into that ocean of, economy, and also giving their ideas. And that's why you see people like Raila Odinga are also keen, because they understand that the election will be about economy. Mudavadi, economy. Kalonzo, economy. Ruto, economy. All these ideas. Now we'll see which economic model is the best.
Which is the best for the country. All right, I'm tempted to take you back into the political ocean a little bit. Just a short phrase for these people to watch in terms of their formula that will work for them. Look at DP, William Ruto. Look at Raila, if he is going to vie. Look at Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka. And there was also Moi, though there is OKA, OKA, which has Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo.
The Act provides for pre-election coalitions or post-election coalitions, which must be deposited with the registrar within certain, I think, 21 days. Now, that time is yet to come. All these candidates or aspirants for now who will declare and get nomination from their political parties or formations will have to go and compete against others. But they'll also look at their chances, because it will be futile to compete and your chances are as narrow as the needle of a hole. So what they'll do, they'll try and form forces with that they, when they work together, they'll secure the seat and majority in parliament. That is going to happen. You'll start seeing that in the next 3 months. It is coming. Number two, for those who believe in themselves and say they'll go all the way, also will start mobilizing, crossing this country to go and look for those. But I am persuaded that the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come because everyone is pulling on their side. Coalition building is not new. Coalition building has been there before. Coalition building is a phenomenon that brings different ideas that seem alike together, people who think alike together, to pursue a common agenda. This time round, because we are going into what is called succession politics, where we're going to have a new president after the one was there served his maximum term, we're going to see strange bedfellows coming together. People who you never believed would work together.
There are surprises we are yet to...
A lot. The surprises are coming. So for me, what I would encourage Kenyans to do, don't, as Governor Mandago tells us all the time, don't put politics in your heart. Put them in the lungs so that when you cough, it goes out. Emotions...
Don't make it personal.
Don't make it personal. Because tomorrow, as politicians, we change camps every day.
Look at what is happening right now. NASA, Jubilee.
Who knew?
Everyone is going their own direction.
So the most important thing is... we must identify as politicians where is our interest and the interest of our people is served best. When we identify that, then we pursue that to its logical conclusion. I am glad today to say that majority of the politicians are trying to find where the interest of their people and their interest will be satisfied best. That time will be clear, Serfine, in May, where now, because in Kenya, elections are driven by the presidential contest. Even the MCA, they're driven by the presidential contest. So when people start seeing these possible candidates who are going to win the election, then they start associating, they start mobilizing around that person or around those people.
So it will inform even what will be happening.
It will inform what is going to happen even at the ground. It will be a pyramid going down there.
a lot is still, on the table for us to discuss, but no wonder this is a continuous program. We never wind up in politics. We can only pick it up.
It continues.
It continues because we are looking at the Mount Kenya region and the attempts to woo the voters in that region and how this is going to inform even the candidature of these aspirants. But that is a topic we'll pick up in the near future. We've come to the end of our conversation. I'd just like to give you a chance for your final words before we conclude this conversation, Fred.
Thank you so much, Serfine, and your team. I think we are at a very dangerous time. A dangerous time when we have challenges in terms of managing our election. IBC are preparing, political parties are preparing, the Kenyans must prepare because this is a process. It is not an event. And all stakeholders must come together to secure each other, to secure the process, to secure the event. Then I also think that it is in the interest of Kenyans to choose a leader that they believe will not fail them, because experience has taught us that the previous leaders have failed us. Experience has taught us the previous leaders have come to us with promises that they cannot fulfill. And again, this structure that we can only vote for one of our own from our tribe must end, because we have also seen such structures deny us the opportunity to engage the best leaders who might not be from our tribe, who might not be from our political party, who might not be from our clan. I want to plead with the people of Kenya as we approach this election, as we prepare for this election, let us secure it, let us get involved, but above all, let us have a free, fair, and credible election that is free from intimidation, free from violence, and free from corruption.
Thank you so much, Fred Okango, Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party, joining us this morning to unpack some of the issues that are shaping the preparations for the 2022 general elections, talking about pertinent issues, economy as one of the issues that are going to be centered around this coming election, and also who to watch on the road to the 2022 general election, and also the state of preparedness of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Those are some of the issues we were talking about this morning. Thank you so much for watching. But before we conclude, let me just take you through the 2022 general elections, key timelines. And we are looking at the big day there. That is the 9th of August, 2022, the second Tuesday of the month of August. That's according to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, is the day when the general elections ought to take place. 2022 there, the IEBC State of Preparedness. There is a mass voter registration currently going on. The first phase of this registration began on the 2nd of August. It will go all the way to the 16th of August. The second phase there will commence on the 6th of December, running all the way till the 20th of December 2021. They are targeting about 7 million Kenyans in this particular exercise. And then what will follow after the mass voter registration exercise is concluded is a register audit that will be conducted by a firm that will be selected by the IEBC. And of course, after that, we will move to the next step. But what you're looking at right now is the nominees of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and these were nominated by President Uhuru Kenyatta last week. We are looking at Francis Wanderi there, Irene Cherop, Justus Abonyo, and Juliana Cherera among the 4 candidates out of the 36 who were interviewed, who managed to be selected currently there is pending vetting and approval by Parliament, so it's a wait and see. So that commission can be fully constituted, and we are set for the 2022 general election. That is what you see there. So thank you so much for creating time for us this particular morning. We will be doing this again tomorrow and on Thursday, and of course we'll also be taking this conversation higher next time. We are now going to be paving way for the Swahili team to be taking it up from here. Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up next with Gladys Mungai. Then later we'll be having Nancy Okware for Tamrini. Do stay for that. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma, and our sign language interpreter has been Lensa Odingo. Have a good one.
forma differente, de otro modo, nunca.
She told me the truth. That's why I'm here. I want to see my parents.
But don't you think it's time that we call a doctor?
Take her to your apartment in secret and let us know, so that the two of us can have a word with her, and we can erase her from the face of the earth.
And Ceci has thrown me out, and I'm very sure that she's plotting against you with Ulysses Artiaga, because until now she's still bent on separating Ivan from Mariana.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Horacio Espinosa.
No, what?
De una forma differente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
Kupata skiza tune ya Karau na DJ, bonyeza star 811 star 967 hash.
Raya, hii ni kwa matiche wote. Please, do not confuse the government. Usianza kufinya ile kitu inasema more fire. Ama ile ya the roof is on fire. Ama unaanza kusema we are killing this party. Ama the party is just a bomb. We are having a blast. No. Wewe cheza musiki and just be Fitland. Enjoy. Ama namna kani. Sawa. Over and out.
Bonyeza star 811 star 967 hash. Star 811 star 967 hash.
Ipepete. Yo, mambo vipi watu wangu popote pale mlipo, nasema asanteni sana jamaa kwa kujiunga na mimi kila wakati kupitia kipindi Top Mashariki kupitia Channel 1, au sio? Nambari 1 mtu wangu nchini Kenya, KBC. Kama vipi mtu wangu, nasema asanteni sana jamaa. Kumbukeni kwamba Top Mashariki kuanzia hii wiki, yani this coming week mazee, itakuwa inakujia kila siku ya Jumanne saa 4 usiku. Yani katika mpango mzima ni Jumanne kuanzia saa 4 usiku. Top
Dakta mpenzi mtazamaji, hiyo kauli mbiu inaashiria kuanza rasmi kwa taarifa zetu za Kurunzi Mashinani, ikiwa ni Jumanne ya leo, ikiwa ni adhuhuri ya tarehe 10 kunradhi, mwezi wa 8 mwaka 2021. Ni fahari yangu kukuletea taarifa hizi. Mimi nafahamika kama Gladys Mungai. Sema nasi kwenye mitandao yetu ya kijamii at KBC Channel 1 na at Gladys Mungai. Ndizo kurasa zetu kwenye ukurasa wa Twitter, na KBC Channel 1 tunapatikana hivyo kwenye kurasa zetu za Facebook. Moja kwa moja mtazamaji, raia 7 wa visiwa vya Comoros walifariki na wengine 8 wakanapokea matibabu katika hospitali za kaunti ndogo ya Malindi. Hii ni baada ya kukumbwa na mawimbi baharini kwa muda wa siku 22. Inasemekana kwamba maafisa hao kutoka familia moja walikuwa safarini kutoka kisiwa cha Nzuani kuelekea kisiwa cha Mayot, na kabla ya meli yao kukumbwa na mawimbi makubwa bahari.
Wadi hii kwenye hospitali ya kaunti ndogo ya Malindi imetengewa raia hao wa Comoros walionusurika kifo baada ya kutoweka baharini kwa zaidi ya siku 20. Meli yao ilipata hitilafu za kimitambo na kilichofuata ni mawimbi makubwa yaliyoyumbisha meli yao wasijue pa kuelekea.
Between Komoro kwa bahati mbaya wakapigwa na maji makubwa na wakapotea wakiwa watu 15, lakini walikufa wakabaki watu 8. Kutokana na safari yao pahali walikuwa wanaenda si safari ya siku nyingi, ni safari kama ya siku moja. Kwa hivyo walikuwa na chakula cha siku moja ama siku 2 tu ndio kiweza kuwapeleka.
Walionusurika waligunduliwa wakiwa hali mahututi na kupelekwa hospitalini kwa matibabu. Nasir Abubakar anaelewa lugha ya Kikomoro na ameshirikiana nao pamoja na maafisa wa jeshi la wanamaji kutafuta jamaa zao.
Wengine bado hatujaweza kupata watu wao.
Miongoni mwa walionusurika bado hawajapata fahamu. Maafisa wa afya katika hospitali ya Malindi wanatarajiwa kutaarifu wanahabari kuhusu hali ya manusura hao. Yusuf Far, Kurunzi Mashinani.
Kwingineko mtazamaji, viongozi katika kaunti ya Kitui wamehimiza serikali ya kitaifa kurejelea mpango wa lishe shuleni pamoja na usambazaji chakula cha msaada ili kuwakinga wakazi dhidi ya athari za ukame. Eneo hilo halijapokea mvua ya kutosha msimu huu na hivyo basi wakazi wanakabiliwa na hatari ya baa la njaa.
Akiongea katika shule ya upili ya Nzawa ambako walizindua maabara iliyojengwa kwa udhamini wa hazina ya ustawi wa eneo bunge la Kitui Magharibi, mbunge wa eneo hilo Charles Nguna alihimiza serikali kuorodhesha kaunti ya Kitui kuwa eneo lenye ugumu wa maisha kutokana na janga la ukame. Nguna alitoa wito wa kurejelea mpango wa lishe shuleni pamoja na kutoa chakula cha msaada kwa wakazi ambao wanakumbwa na kiangazi.
Kitui County, we need school feeding program. We need school feeding program. Sai watoto hata angalieni vile msitu inakaa, kumekauka. Kila mahali ni ukauko tu. Na mnaniambia sasa ofisa wale ambao wanafanya hii county hawapati anti-shift allowance. Hiyo nimekataa. I have already done a petition in parliament.
Naye mbunge wa Mwingi Kaskazini mhandisi Paul Nzengu alionya kuwa wanafunzi kadhaa wa shule za msingi na upili hawaendi shuleni kwani hawapati chakula nyumbani kwao na pia shuleni.
Sasa hii kiangazi ambayo iko hapa inaonekana katikati ya wiki 2 wiki 3 wanafunzi wengi hataweza kwenda kwa shule. Sana sana wa primary ambao nyumbani hakuna chakula na shuleni hakuna chakula. Kwa hivyo ile chakula ikipelekwa kwa shule, watoto hata kama nyumbani hakuna chakula wataweza kuamka asubuhi na kwenda wakiwa na hakikisho ya kwamba wakifika shuleni watapata chakula.
Nikiripotia Kurunzi Mashinani, jina langu ni Yusuf Hilo.
Tukitoka katika kaunti ya Kitui na kuangazia sasa masuala ya kisiasa, ni kwamba baadhi ya wanasiasa wanaoegemea chama cha ANC wamembeza katibu mkuu wa KOTU Francis Atwoli kuvitaja vyama vya ANC na Ford Kenya kwa vioski vya kisiasa ambavyo dhamira yao ni kugawanya kura kwenye uchaguzi mkuu ujao. Mbunge wa Lurambi Askofu Titus Hamala amesisitiza kwamba chama cha ANC kitakuwa na mgombeaji katika kiti cha urais licha ya shinikizo ya kukitaka kijiunge na chama cha ODM.
Siasa yanatokota kati ya wabunge wanaomuunga mkono Musalia Mudavadi na katibu mkuu wa KOTU Francis Atwoli baada ya Atwoli kumshutumu Mudavadi kwa kuendeleza mchezo wa paka na panya kuhusiana na uchaguzi mkuu ujao. Atwoli ambaye alikuwa katika eneo la magharibi mwa Kenya alivitaja vyama vya ANC na Ford Kenya kuwa viosk vya kisiasa ambavyo lengo lao ni kucheza karata ili kulazimisha duru ya pili ya uchaguzi wa urais.
Wanasema hivi watu hao kama Irono James, we want to pressurize for a rerun so that in the next round sisi tutaungana na William Ruto. Unashasikia hiyo? Wanataka rerun. Raila asishinde, Ruto asishinde. Sasa hapo ndio biashara sasa. Hapo sasa ndio business.
Hata hivyo, mbunge wa Lurambi Askofu Titus Hamala amesema chama cha ANC hakitajiondoa kwenye kinyang'anyiro cha urais.
Kama ANC ni kioski, sisi tumefurahi kuwa kwa kioski yetu. Ni afadhali niwe kwa nyumba ya nyazi yangu kuliko gorofa ya mtu mwingine. So whether wanafanyia biashara, kila kitu ni biashara. Hata wale wa vyama vingine si biashara wanafanya. Na sisi tukifanya biashara shida ni nini?
Hamala amesema bunge linapasa kuhakikisha tume ya IEBC inafadhiliwa vilivyo kuandaa uchaguzi mkuu.
Kipindi kiisha, Chebukati tafadhali, Chebukati tunakuomba tafadhali. Usiongeze saa, wewe linda katiba ya Kenya.
Kwingineko katika kaunti ya Kitui, washirikishi wa chama cha UDA wamepuzilia mbali azma ya Kalonzo Musyoka ya kuwania urais.
We are hustlers and the hustlers are the masses in Kenya. Everybody, especially in Ukambani, you know, we are masses. The hustlers are masses.
Kwingineko mtazamaji, zaidi ya wakazi 10,000 katika eneo bunge la Magarini, kaunti ya Kilifi, wanalalamika kuhusu wanachodai kwamba ni uharibifu wa mimea yao uliosababishwa na ndovu pamoja na viboko. Kwa mujibu wa wakazi hao, ndovu hao wameharibu mimea yao tangu mwezi wa pili mwaka huu na wanasababishia hasara kubwa wakazi hao ya mamilioni ya pesa katika kilimo chao.
Wakazi hao wanadai kuwa kilimo chao cha nyunyiziaji mashamba kimewaacha bila mimea kutokana na uharibifu wa wanyamapori.
Tangu mwezi wa pili mwaka huu tumeng'ang'ana na ndovu mbaya sana kufukuzana nao. Na kwenye mihogo, mahindi yote karibu eka zangu 2 zimekwisha zote kuliwa na ndovu. Nimeng'ang'ana time hii ni kwenye shughuli mpaka usiku. Tumepambana na ndovu mbaya sana, watatu hao wa jamaa wakubwa kweli kweli. Hatuna silaha.
Miongoni mwa mimea iliyoharibiwa ni mahindi, miwa, mihogo na minazi. Wakazi hao wanasema kuwa hawajapata usaidizi kutoka kwa shirika la kuhifadhi wanyamapori.
Mara kwa mara tumeongea kwa usika ambao ni KWS, wanakuja, wakikuja hakuna shughuli wanafanya, wanakuja kwa hii town yetu ya Shakahola, wanatembea kwa muda alafu ndo wanatoka. Hata kwa mashamba hatujawahi ona wakitupitia na kutuliza ni nini kinaendelea ama ni nani ameharibiwa.
Mbunge wa Magarini Michael Kingi amesema juhudi za kuhimiza Wizara ya Utalii kuchukua hatua hazijafua dafu.
Nimejaribu nikiwa mjumbe kuongea na wizara mara kwa mara, nishamtembelea hata Waziri Balala, nishaongea na PS kuhusu swala hili ili waone ni vipi wanaweza wasaidia watu wa Chakama location kuhakikisha kwamba wale ndovu wanaona venye watawatenga na wananchi, ili kila msimu wananchi watakapopanda waone kwamba wanapata mavuno bila kutishika ama kuwa na tatizo la ndovu.
Nikiripotia Kurunzi, naitwa Wamboi Otiende.
Na wakazi wa Elwak huko Mandera Kusini wamehimizwa kuchukua kadi zao za huduma namba ambazo ziko katika ofisi mbalimbali za serikali. Akiongea huko Elwak, Mandera Kusini, kamishna wa kaunti ya Mandera Onesmus Kiatha alisema kadi za huduma namba ni hati muhimu na akawahimiza wakazi kuzichukua kutoka kwa ofisi za huduma ofisi ama pia katika ofisi za chifu katika maeneo ya Mandera.
Na wa kaunti huko Mandera Kusini, Onesmus Kiatha amewahimiza wakazi kuchukua kadi zao za huduma namba ambazo zimedumu kwa muda sasa katika vituo vya kuzichukua. Akiongea kuhusu swala hilo, kamishna huyo wa kaunti alisema baadhi ya wakazi tayari wamepokea ujumbe mfupi unaowaagiza kule watakaochukua kadi zao.
Nataka mchukue hiyo kadi kwa sababu hiyo kadi itatumika sana. Si mumeona? Pengine hiyo kadi ndio itatumika kwa sababu ya ukora ile imekuwa hapo zamani.
Alielezea kwamba wakiwa na kadi za huduma namba, wananchi wataweza kupokea huduma za serikali kwa urahisi.
Tukielekea kwenye masuala ya chanjo ya COVID-19, walimu katika kaunti ya Busia wamehimizwa kujiwasilisha kwa wingi kupokea chanjo. Hii ni dhidi ya ugonjwa wa COVID-19. Naibu kamishna wa kaunti ya Busia Kipchumba Ruto amesema walimu wako katika hatari kubwa ya kuambukizwa ugonjwa huo kwani wanatangamana na wanafunzi.
Serikali imeimarisha kampeni yake utoaji chanjo kote nchini kufuatia michango ya chanjo zilizotolewa hivi majuzi. Na huku shule zikiwa zimefunguliwa tena, walimu wanaendelea kuwa hatarini ya kuambukizwa ugonjwa wa COVID-19. Naibu kamishna wa kaunti ya Busia Kipchumba Ruto sasa anatoa wito kwa walimu kujiwasilisha kwa chanjo dhidi ya ugonjwa huo.
And they are at risk because wanafunzi wako na immunity ya juu because they are still very young. But teachers are very old. so they have very low immunity. So they are at risk if they avoid uchanjwa. They are at risk, high risk. So they should come out wapata hiyo chap within our hospital here.
Ruto kadhalika akiwaagiza wakazi wa sehemu hiyo kuendelea kuzingatia kanuni za kuzuia msambao wa COVID-19.
Normally move to schools to ensure protocols are being observed in every school. And we normally visit them, you get them having masks. We insist that masks must be worn appropriately. Unlike wengine wanaweka kama tai. Hata wengine wakifika ofisi wana bull down so that they can talk.
Kufikia sasa, kati ya dozi za pili 1698,905 zilizotolewa kote nchini, walimu 1,127 wamepokea chanjo hizo za dozi ya pili. Nancy Okware, Kurunzi Mashinani.
Tukisalia hapo mtazamaji, Wizara ya Elimu imehimizwa kuchunguza kisa cha kutoweka kwa wasichana 9 kunradhi, katika hali ya kutamausha kutoka shule ya Mabweni, kaunti ya Kajiado bila ufahamu wa wasimamizi wa shule hiyo. Wazazi waliokuwa na hamaki wanasema kwamba walipigwa na butwa kuhusu kutoweka kwa wanafunzi hao wa shule ya upili ya Dipak, eneo la Kisaju, eneo la Isinya.
Baadhi ya wazazi wa shule ya upili ya Dipak huko Kisaju, Isinya wametamaushwa kufuatia kutoweka kwa watoto wao.
Wengine tuko hapa shuleni bado hatujapata suluhu yetu, hatujajua hawa watoto walitoka aje, wako wapi mpaka saa hii. Kwa hivyo hapa shule tuko na shida kubwa kwa sababu hawa watoto hawana security.
Mzazi mmoja anasemekana kupokea simu kutoka kwa bintiye akimfahamisha kwamba hakuwa shuleni kabla ya mawasiliano kukatizwa. Gwaride ya ghafla iliyoitishwa ilifichua kwamba wasichana 9 hawakuwepo shuleni. Sasa wazazi wanatoa wito kwa Wizara ya Elimu kuhakikisha usalama wa watoto wao. Kwingineko, zaidi ya wanafunzi 700 wa shule ya upili ya wasichana ya Kambaa katika kaunti ndogo ya Lari walilala madarasani baada ya moto kuteketeza mabweni yao.
Naomba serikali kule juu na hapa ya kaunti itusaidie katika kushughulikia jengo ambalo liliweza kuchomeka, kuungua kwa watoto. Na maana jengo liliugua na wazazi wakafinyika zaidi, maana marazi ya watoto na vifaa vya watoto navyo vikaungu. Kwa hivyo wengi ni wale ambao tulikuwa tumeleta wiki hiyo moja.
Wakati huo polisi katika kaunti ya Kilifi wanachunguza kisa cha moto katika shule ya upili ya Chumani huko Kilifi. Moto huo umeteza bweni.
Mungejua vile tunangangana ili kuleta hata darasa moja. Hata kama una hasira kiasi gani, afadhali uondoke urudi kwenu. Lakini unapochoma hata darasa moja, huo umeturudisha nyuma kabisa.
Duru zadokeza kwamba moto huu ulizuka wakati wanafunzi walikuwa madarasani kwa masomo ya jioni. Hakuna aliyejeruhiwa wakati wa kisa hicho.
Alizaliwa katika kijiji cha Murinduko kwenye mpaka.
Mtazamaji, hebu sasa tuangazie taarifa ya kupigiwa upato, na ni kwamba kwa zaidi ya muongo mmoja Penina Wambui alizoea kuchakura kwenye majalala na taka, na kwa njia ya kujitafutia riziki yeye na wanawake wengine 9. Lakini kwa sasa hali imemgeuka Wambui na sasa anafanya kazi kama muuguzi na mtunzi wa wakongwe. Tazama taarifa ifuatayo.
Mpaka kati ya kaunti za Embu na Kirinyaga miaka 47 iliyopita, nyota yake ilionekana kung'aa hadi alipoamua kuacha masomo akiwa katika darasa la 6, uamuzi ambao anajutia vikali.
Masomo nilisoma mpaka standard 6. Venye tu watoto wanaanza utukutu, nikaacha shule. Kuacha shule nikaenda nikaandikwa maid.
Baada ya kuolewa na kutarakiwa mara kadhaa, Wambui alijipata akiishi maisha ya kurandaranda kwenye barabara za jiji. Anasimulia jinsi alivyoamka alfajiri kutafuta makombo hoteli kabla hayajachanganywa na chakula cha mbwa. Cha kushangaza ni kwamba familia yake ilisalia buheri wa afya.
Tulikuwa tunachukua hizo ugali, tunakuja tunazitoa, tunakuja kupea watoto manyama zenye watu walikula mahoteli.
Hata hivyo, maisha yake yaligeuka kuwa ya matumaini pale alipochukuliwa na shirika moja lisilo la serikali ambalo lililompatia mafunzo kuhusu kuwahudumia wakongwe na wagonjwa.
Nimesomea community health worker na nimesomea business alafu nimesomea kazi ya mambo ya watoto.
Miezi michache baadaye alihamia eneo la Wanyororo B, kaunti ya Nakuru, ambapo alianza maisha mapya. Kimekuwa kitendawili cha kufanya kazi 3 kwa mpigo.
Kwa hivyo mimi kwa kazi ya community mimi hufanya na nasikianga vizuri, lakini kuna challenges zinapataga. Kama juzi vyenye nilikuwa nimelala hospitali, nilikuwa nimeacha watoto wangu na juu ni passion niko nayo kwa ndani ya moyo wangu, nasikia siwezi achilia.
Wamboi amegundua kwamba ipo nafasi kubwa ya utoaji huduma kwa wazee, na anatoa wito kwa serikali ya taifa na zile za kaunti kubuni mikakati madhubuti ya kushughulikia.
Ningekuwa na watu wanaweza ni support, niweze kufikia watu wengi wenye wanaweza napata niko na financially, nikienda nikipata kuna shinda nasaidia kazi hizo mashinda nazitatua, naweza furahia sana.
Baadhi ya wakazi wa eneo anakoishi wametambua mchango wake na wanampatia kibarua cha kuwatunza wagonjwa wao na wakongwe hospitalini.
Amekuwa tena ni mtu ya maana sana kwa vile yeye amefanya kazi, sababu si ati kusukumiwa, ni kutoka moyo, ni kutoka ndani ya moyo. Huyo alipisangi hata dururu, ni kazi tu ya kujitolea.
Ananisaidiaga na mimi ngesikia na kibia kwake.
Kwingineko mtazamaji, ni kwamba wanawake huko Samburu waliandamana kulalamika kuhusu kuhangaishwa na pia kuteswa kwa maafisa wa usalama wanaotekeleza operesheni ya kiusalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia. Operesheni hiyo inanuia kuwaondoa wachungaji mifugo waliovamia mashamba ya kibinafsi. Kina mama hao na watoto wao wamekuwa wakiishi katika shamba la Kirimon la ekari 80 linalomilikiwa na shirika la NYS na serikali huko Laikipia kazini.
Mamia ya wanawake waliandamana katika kituo cha biashara cha posta huko Laikipia kaskazini, wakidai kuwa maafisa wa usalama waliopelekwa eneo hilo wanawatesa wakazi badala ya kurejesha usalama na kuwafukuza wafugaji mifugo walio na silaha kutoka kaunti jirani kama walivyoagizwa na serikali.
Hakuna mtu amejenga dunia, ni Mungu, na hatuwezi kuhama, hakuna bali tunaenda.
Akuje asikie habari yetu, akuje kilio yetu sisi kama wakazi wa Laikipia, sisi wa Samburu.
Haya yalijiri baada ya serikali kuagiza operesheni ya kiusalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia kuondoa wafugaji mifugo waliohamia eneo hilo na kuvamia mashamba ya kibinafsi. Walisema maafisa wa usalama wamekuwa wakivuruga maisha yao na kuwapiga risasi mifugo wao na kuwaua watoto wakati wa operesheni hiyo. Aidha, waliongeza kusisitiza kwamba ni wachungaji mifugo wenye silaha ambao wanapaswa kuondolewa katika sehemu hiyo.
Mtazamaji, taarifa hiyo ya kilio cha kuimarisha hali ya usalama katika kaunti ya Samburu inatia kikomo taarifa zetu za Kurunzi Mashinani Jumanne ya leo. Nasema asante sana kwa utazamaji wako. Mimi naitwa Gladys Mungai. Tukutane kesho inshallah saa na wakati kama huu.